So this is the Google Pixel 9 and this is the iPhone 16. And they're both the entry-level phone from both Google and Apple, but which one is the right pick for you? Well, Apple offers you two versions. You have the regular for $799 and then you have the Plus for $100 more at $899. And sadly, Google only give you the one choice here at $799. So in terms of pricing, they're both on par, and no matter which one of these phones you pick up, the storage option you're going to get is just 128 gigs. I do like that Apple give you that choice between a regular and a plus size, and I wish this is something that Google would adopt with their vanilla Pixel 9. The Pixel will give you a fair few years of updates, with Google promising 7 years of them. So if you pick this up now, then you know in 7 years time that you're still going to be getting Android updates. And Apple never tell you exactly how long they'll support iPhones for, but the iPhone XS is still getting support for iOS 18, and that is almost 7 years old. So in terms of updates, it looks like that both Google and Apple are pretty much on par with this. Now, I'll tell you the benchmarks of each of these phones, and the iPhone 16 does beat the Pixel 9 in almost every single way. But for me, benchmarks don't exactly tell you the full story of what it's like to use a phone. Yes, the iPhone beats the Pixel 9 in single and multi-core here, but every single day in use, that doesn't really relate to much. I do want to touch on the design of both of these phones from Google and Apple, and I have to mention one thing here that I cannot believe that Apple still get away with, and that is putting a 60Hz display in this phone. I just don't understand why it's still happening. And I know we hear loads about regular people don't need 120Hz, but also regular people didn't need an ultra-wide lens, and regular people didn't need AI, but now we have it, we wouldn't go back, and it makes it feel like you're getting more for your money. And 60Hz here is something that I just don't think you should be getting when you're spending $700 or $899 on a brand new phone in 2024. Apple really needs to up this. Google though does beat Apple in this respect, because if you pick up the regular Pixel 9, you will get 120Hz. So putting these side by side, there is just no competition here. Now, in terms of the display size, on the regular iPhone 16 you get 6.1 inches, and on the Plus you get 6.7 inches, whereas Google, like mentioned, only give you one size, and it kind of fits in between here because you get 6.3 inches on the Pixel 9. And on these displays, I should mention that Apple do not give the iPhone 16 an always on display. It saves that for its Pro phones, whereas on the Google Pixel 9 you do get that always on display. So I do think Google here is just winning. If you're interested in some peak brightness numbers, then the iPhone is slightly dimmer at 2000 nits, and that Pixel 9 goes up to 2700 nits. And I can't say this has been massively noticeable when indoors. Outside you can tell that the Pixel 9 is ever so slightly brighter, but I wouldn't say it is miles ahead. Now, in terms of the rest of the design, the actual feel in the hand of these phones is really similar because they're both rounded, and Google did that new redesign this year for that Pixel 9. And if you're not really looking and you pick up one of these phones, you can't tell exactly which one you've picked up. The Pixel 9 has this really nice matte finish on the side rails, and the iPhone 16 has something very similar, and it's more of the same. When you turn these phones around, you'll find that matte finish on the iPhone and that less premium glossy finish on the Pixel. And as a side note, I've got to mention the colours on this year's iPhone 16s because Apple has absolutely knocked it out the park with these. That ultramarine is one of my favourite colours I've seen in a long time, and not even far behind is that teal colours. I wish Google would put some more exciting colours on their phones this year. So in terms of the colours, I think the iPhone absolutely take this. I should mention very quickly the camera design here as well, because they've both changed the designs this year. The Pixel has its 2-camera visor on the back, whilst the iPhone has reverted back to something we saw way back on the iPhone 11, pretty much having the cameras stacked above each other. And I know that the iPhone changed the camera design for its spatial video, but I just think that the Pixel's camera housing is more bold and more out there, and it just looks a little bit more modern. It's cool. I really like it. The camera housing has a main camera sensor and an ultra-wide on both of these, and the Pixel has a 48 megapixel ultra-wide, compared that to the 12 megapixel of the iPhone. Let's start with the ultra-wide, and to me it seems like the iPhone wants to boost the shadows in almost every single photo. While the Pixel looks a bit darker, it is a little bit more real to what I was seeing. Personally, I think there's a little bit more detail on the Pixel's ultra-wide photos compared to the iPhones, and when it comes to low light on the ultra-wide, the Pixel hands down is the winner here. There's more detail on the photos of the Pixel, whilst the iPhone all look a little bit flat and just a bit dull. The Pixel does seem to add some processing to brighten up the images ever so slightly, but I'd rather have that in these low light shots than have something with darkness and very little detail. For the main cameras, it is much closer between the two, and this time, whilst the iPhone does increase the shadows just a little bit, you can see that photos side by side here, they do look very similar. The details that you can get on these main cameras look absolutely great, and for me, I think the colours are handled really well by both the iPhone and the Pixel. I have to say that both of these phones give me that real to life look. For low light on these phones, the iPhone performance is much better than it did on that ultra-wide lens, but for me, it is still just a little bit dark for my liking. The Pixel handles colours just a little bit better, and it does give a little bit more detail on the shadows, as you do lose a bit of that when you're using the iPhone. Again, just like the ultra-wide, the Pixel does add a bit of processing here to brighten up that image, but this is something that I actually really like, and it gives you a usable photo. And I'll touch on it really quickly here, and it's the camera control on the iPhone 16s. I find this really difficult to use. I don't think it's easy, I don't think it's intuitive, and if anything, it actually makes taking photos a little bit more difficult. It's not positioned in the right place, and I feel like all I do is accidentally touch this when I'm taking photos, which ends up making them actually look a little bit worse. So for me, it's having good effort, Apple, but the camera control is really not the one. For video, they can both do 4K at 60 frames a second, and for me, I've said this before about the iPhone video, and it is just better than the Pixel. It pains me to say it, but it is true. While the Pixel has caught up a fair bit in the last couple of years, on the iPhone it just looks a little bit more cinematic-like, and it gives you much better stabilization, and while the dynamic range is similar, it does do a better job on the iPhone 16. Let's talk about the AI offerings that both of these phones give you, and the Pixel really is like overrun with AI, whilst at the moment the iPhone really doesn't have anything. As it stands, the iPhone 16 has no Apple Intelligence features at all, unless you run the iOS 18 beta, which I don't think you should really have to do. There is no new Siri, it's as bad as ever, and you just don't have simple features like cleanup. It's been advertised as a phone built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence, but if you put this side by side with any other iPhone running iOS 18, there really isn't a difference. On the Pixel 9 though, you have more AI than you even know what to do with. There is Gemini Live, which is something that Siri could only dream of being. You have Magic Editor, you have Pixel Studio. There is so much to mention that I can't go through it all in this video, but there really is a gulf between these phones when it comes to AI. And having said that, I wouldn't buy one over the other because of its AI features, but I just think Apple don't sell me a phone that has no AI features on it at all, I have to wait 6 months to even get a full rollout for. So Google, in terms of its AI, is miles ahead here. I do want to talk about some everyday use cases now with both of these phones, and I'm going to talk about battery first. The battery on the Pixel 9 is 4,700 mAh, which beats the regular iPhone 16 and even just squeezes ahead of the iPhone 16 Plus. And I've mainly used the iPhone 16 Plus and the Pixel 9, and both of these phones come pretty close with its screen on time. So I get around about 7 to 8 hours with each of these, and there hasn't been many occasions where I've been dropping below 20%, especially on days where I've just been sat at my desk. So actually, I've been really happy with the battery life that these phones will give you. If you do need to top up these phones in a hurry though, the Pixel 9 will give you 27 watts of wired charging, which should get you to about 55% in around 30 minutes, and from the times that I've been using it, that seems pretty accurate. Apple won't tell us exactly what their wired charging speed is, but we've measured this to be around about 21 watts. The wireless charging speeds though will differ between what method you're using to charge your phone. So for example, with the Pixel 9, if you're using that Pixel stand, you can get 15 watts of wireless charging, but if you just use a standard wireless charger, then you're only going to get 12 watts. For the iPhone, it's a bit quicker at 25 watts if you charge via MagSafe, but then it's 15 watts using any Qi 2 wireless charger. In terms of using these phones every single day and unlocking them, I prefer one method over the other, and I'll get a little bit of hate for this, and it's not that I'm a fanboy of iPhone here, I just prefer Face ID because it works in every single situation. I know the Pixel has 3D Face Unlock and it's secure enough to unlock banking apps now, but if you're not in a bright room, then it doesn't work as well as Face ID. But the Pixel does have that ultrasonic fingerprint reader, which was new this year, and I've got to say, using that, I would say 9 times out of 10, maybe 9.5 times out of 10, it works every single time and is nice and quick. I just find Face ID on the iPhone a little bit more convenient. And something else when using these phones every day is just the software, and I've used the iPhone a fair bit over the past couple of weeks, and iOS 18 this year just doesn't seem as refined as previous years. I kind of feel like they've said yes to a lot that they wouldn't have said yes to in previous years, and that's how we've ended up with these coloured icons and tinted icons, which I just don't think look very good. Pixel, on the other hand, does its version of tinted icons really well, and I feel it's just a little bit more mature, and I feel like it's what iOS 18 really wanted to be, but it couldn't just quite get there. With the Pixel 9, I feel like it's a big update this year, and this is mostly down to that refreshed design, but I do feel overall this looks just a little bit better than the iPhone. The iPhone does outperform the Pixel on raw benchmarks, but you can see from things like the camera comparisons and just how it works every day in terms of battery and the software experience that benchmarks really aren't everything when it comes to using that phone daily. The iPhone right now is the same iPhone that we've seen for the last few years with the added camera control, but it doesn't excite me the same way that it does using the Google Pixel 9. Maybe the iPhone will feel more fresh and renewed in 6 months' time when we finally get that entire rollout of Apple Intelligence, but right now for me, the Google Pixel 9 just overall is a better choice. But let me know what you think in the comments. I know we're Android authority, but objectively, do you think that the iPhone has done enough to beat the Pixel 9 this year? Before you head off, make sure you subscribe to the Android Authority YouTube channel, and if you do that, then I will see you in the next video.